Hey, it's Chris. Liege Games. I really like talking about board games. Do you really like talking about board games? I hope so. Just a good time overall. Just had a nice lesson as well earlier this evening. I'm an amateur. I'm an amateur. But did you know that the French meaning, the original meaning from the French language of the word amateur is meaning lover of? So I am an amateur board gamer. I am an amateur YouTuber. I am a lover of doing this. Not doing it for the paid, which is also the other alternative phrase, but it just really just means a lover of that in the first place. And I hope you are too. But let's talk about why you're actually here. Let's talk about what's coming up next week. Now, this is going to be a very sparse week. So we're going to have a little extra time at the end that maybe we'll throw a little bit of other conversation in, a little TV conversation, a little whatever conversation, if you will. But that's about it. Just want to say thanks. Thanks. We're approaching the year, I think, beginning of next month. And so I'm trying to come up with what we're going to do. Maybe a giveaway. I have one or two games that I may or may not have copies of extra that I may just want to get rid of. So maybe we can hit, it'd be awesome if we could come close to like 4,000 by then. That would be my goal by the 1 year at this point. And if we can do that, maybe I'll link in a couple giveaways and we'll do something special, and maybe I'll hide some clues or something. Just, you know what? Subscribe and comment. It would probably be one of those, because I'm not going to make it too complicated. You guys have been too good to me to make you work for it too much. You guys have been more than superfluously great. So let's do this. Let's talk about games. First up, launching on the 23rd of August is Age of Trains. Now, there's actually not a whole lot of information on Board Game Geek. It is self-described as a lot of train games, though it's slightly different. This is a pick up and deliver. And they say there are going to be potentially different maps, and the maps may have real names on them, but they are going to adapt to what you are doing on the map, so the locations might not be real in that sense of how they're lining up. And there are 4 different ways in which you're going to be upgrading your trains or your ability to pick up and deliver. Other than that, again, there's no videos. This is the only other picture on Board Game Geek. And so we're going to kind of have to see what's out there. Again, they say anywhere from 2 to 4 or 2 to 5 players, depending on which map is used. Which map is used is also going to determine how many rounds you have in order to collect the most victory points. That's all we know. It's launching on the 23rd. If you are a fan of train games, if you are a fan of pick up and deliver with this type of setup, check it out when it launches. Next up, on the 24th, this is going to look a little different. This is Black Rose Wars Rebirth. Now, you may be familiar with Ludus Magnus Studios from the original Black Rose Wars, which I believe was a Deliver in 2019 project, where it was taking this asymmetric style of game where you are a team of mages with a theme, with a pervasive type of spell that you are using, with a lot of with capturing certain objectives, going for certain ways to win, while being able to not ever be eliminated from the game, because when your character gets defeated or dies, you respawn. It just sort of re-rolls like that, and you can kind of see what you need to do in this modular system. It's deck building, it's strategy, it's tactical, modular nature. Now, if you're familiar with Black Rose Wars at all from the original, you can see this hex-based modularity of rooms that you are moving through that all have different effects, and you have different player boards and different skills and asymmetry there. Now, the context of the Rebirth game is the Mage House, the place where everything occurs in the first game has been destroyed, and you are trying to rebuild it, hence the name Rebirth. They say at least just in the core, there are going to be 6 new mage factions. So again, the other thing with this was there was going to be a significant Kickstarter presence with the first game. There's a huge Kickstarter exclusive box and extras. And so the question is going to be how much of it is similar to this. This raised 7+ figures the first time around. So again, is it going to address some of the shortcomings where, again, for this game, a lot of people were saying it, with the mages battling spells, boom, take that, respawn. Should have been a 1.5 hour game, and people thought kind of dragged out to a 3-hour game. Some of the rules needed some clarification, and Ludus Magnus has taken some critiques from that side of things in the past with some of their other games. So again, show me a 2.0 version. Is this also going to be a 2.0 version? Because similar to Kingdom Rush that we saw on GameFound launch, one, is it going to get more funding or less funding, even though it's on the same crowdfunding site this time as opposed to Kingdom Rush? But are you going to address some of those issues and make a better product? Sort of like with Kingdom Rush, where if I got the second one, I didn't feel like I needed the first one necessarily either. So it'll be really interesting to see. I'm not sold on it by any means, but I'm willing to give them another shot as a previous owner of the original Black Rose Wars. So we'll see what happens when it launches on the 24th. Also relaunching on the 24th is the eco-friendly Earth Rising game in the style of Pandemic, where you are trying to save the Earth. Now, again, they have sort of this Pandemic style of play where you've got many things going on around the outside that you are targeting and trying to manage on a turn-by-turn, round-by-round basis. And it is cooperative. You have, quote-unquote, 20 years to save the planet with your machinations. Positively, of course, in this case. So, then, the one difference that they say, as opposed to a Pandemic game, is you don't have traveling around the map like you do in most of those games. Now, it's a 1 to 6 player game, and you can see, again, that there are a lot of elements in terms of the tokens and the color schemes and trying to manage and mitigate all of those different areas. Potentially 6 different areas that you're trying to gather resources in, but not also strain from that side of things. It was unsuccessful in its first time around. This is the relaunch, so it'll be interesting to see what has changed. How have they changed it? Is it a price thing? Is it a theme thing? I don't know. Like, I've heard people say thematically both ways on a game like this. Like, hey, we really like that this is different. This is proactive. This is very cool from that side of things. And I've also heard people say, hey, look, this is a little too real. I try to get it from the escapist mentality so I don't have to think about these things in my games. So not saying that there's right or wrong in those situations, but you need to obviously have more on the former than the latter to fund from that side of things. So we'll see again what it looks like when it funds, when it relaunches on the 24th. Also launching on the 24th is Shasn, Azadi, the sequel to Shasn. You may be more familiar with Shasn as the original political strategy game that came out, I believe, in 2019. The original game is a 3 to 5 player, competitive, political managing, topically divisive strategy game with a significant component of area control. If that sounds different, it's because it's different. Draw cards, get an issue, take stands on certain sides of an issue, allows you to get certain resources, allows you to get certain influence and certain voters behind you. Building behind more of a focused single ideology will allow you to gain more presence, influence within that, and unlock more for you to be able to use and to influence things going forward. And the crux of the game is that, do you stick to your ideology? Do you stick to your guns, your beliefs, or do you mold them to adapt to what the game is showing you in order to sort of maximize it from that side of things? And it stays very true, I've heard, from a real life perspective. Again, similar to Earth Rising, how true do you want something like that to stay? But it is a different player count too, because it's a 3 to 5 player count. So it's not going to be as accessible at those lower player counts. Obviously, one, as an area control game, but two, sort of as a coercion strategy alliance style of game where the lower counts just don't work nearly as well with those types of mechanisms. So what's new in the second one? Now, they say this is actually an expansion for the base game, and they say this is semi-cooperative, where you are going to be teaming up to go against the AI, the game itself, as the Imperials, trying to fight off them, but also still trying to be the one that succeeds the most. Now, they say that on the Board Game Geek designer diary page, there is going to be 4 campaigns that you can go through and historic events of, but they also mention that while this is an expansion for the base game that's going to add more in a different element and a different way of playing, you can also play this as a standalone entry point to the series itself. So that's really interesting flexibility from that standpoint. So we don't see a lot of that side of things where it's an either or. So if you're interested, check it out when it launches on the 24th. Next up on the 24th, we have Backyard Chickens, the 2 to 5 player deck building game. What are you doing? Well, as you can see here on your player board, collecting eggs, feeding your chickens, going shopping, clean up at the end phase, and rinse and repeat. Play until your flock is happy. The happier the chickens, the more eggs, the more victory points. Until your flock reaches 10, well, then the game ends and whoever has the most wins. That's it. Relatively short and simple and straightforward. Check it out when it launches on the 24th. Next up is Super Truffle Pigs. We're going full backyard animal barn right now. So Super Truffle Pigs, a 2 to 4 player from Bicycle. Now this is an interesting game because it talks about grid-based movement where you are pigs trying to find truffles in the forest. And there are a couple different end game conditions, but basic gist of it is you are moving across, trying to use potentially your asymmetric super pig powers to help find them, to help complete missions, because you are also going to be drafting missions to get victory points at the beginning of the game. There's action programming because, as you can see in the background of this picture, there are wolves that are going to be going across the grid as well that you need to avoid. You're going to be trying to collect said truffles for victory points as well, and the super truffles will activate your super powers as a one-time super boost. When does the game end? Well, at the end of every round, you flip up the wolf cards that get programmed, and if the wolf lands on the same space as you, you're out. Game ends when there are 3 or less truffles left in the forest, or only 1 pig is remaining standing. So, sound interesting? Sound nice? Small filler? Super Truffle Pigs? Check it out when it launches on the 24th. Last up, we have The Gardens, which is a 2 to 4 player card drafting tableau builder, where you are literally building a park, trying to design the best path for visitors to stroll through when they do at the end of the game. Now, what does it look like? Well, here is a completed tableau, so you can see the individual sections of cards here as it goes across, and it appears to be about, in this case, a 7x3 card, so you can see exactly what you're going to be doing. You can see the path that it creates. You can see the various parts of the path in the first place. Things like landmarks, things like bridges give increased variability and increased depth for more experienced players to be able to do. Now, the interesting thing is, they already have this being re-implemented by another game in Board Game Geek, a walk in the park, which is the equivalent, basically, roll and write, if you will, for this little sister game, as they're calling it, The Gardens. You are a stroll and write, as the actual term that they use. Die is rolled, you must draw that feature in your park, trying to get the most sightseeing spots depending on the best way to explore, and the most points is going to win. Now, obviously, as a stroll and write, simultaneous play, 1 to 99 player count, these are both from Grail Games, launching. I'm assuming this one is going to be on the 24th as well, as part of the campaign, but I don't think there's any details yet. So if you're interested, check both of these out. Short and sweet this week. I wasn't kidding about that, right? So what are you watching right now? I got a couple things on Netflix. Doing the What If Disney series as well. I mean, keep up with that if you want to see some really, really cool stuff on there, some cool animation style of things. It's just a fun watch. Otherwise, it's kind of a big lull. I'm kind of catching up on a little bit of everything, kind of catching up on some Rick and Morty. And other than that, I'm just kind of catching up on things. I just started watching Invincible on Amazon Prime. I'm not 100% sold on that yet. I'm not too far in though, so I don't know. Let me know what you think. I'm gonna get into a little bit of, well, my kids are really into the Be Cool Scooby Doo. It's the more up to date. It's like the 2020 Scooby Doo that they had like 2 seasons of. That was much more adulty than Let On. So that was it's really fun watching it with them because there's actually stuff that makes me laugh out loud. So that's really cool. I'm still trying to finish The Fall with Gillian Anderson. That drama, that's top notch. Just gets better and better. Can't recommend that enough. And I think the only other thing I'm catching up on is I'm finally getting up to date on the last season of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So, nice. And we'll just kind of see whatever else pops up. Sometimes I feel like English, shows so I can have a little bit of noise in the background, but also watch stuff and, not have to think about it too hard. Other times I still watch a lot of subtitled stuff because it really makes me focus nowadays where our direction can kind of be split 4 different ways. You see that even at the board game table, right? Like somebody's got their phone out, somebody's checking their email, someone's doing Instagram, they're playing their turn, they're not paying attention to the rules. Like, that's a whole nother video, but I'm actually okay with people being on their phone and doing other things while we play. As long as I don't have to explain stuff to them repeatedly and they can keep up with their turn, I don't really care. I mean, it's fine with me, but I know that's a divisive subject as well. So anyway, that's what I'm watching. That's what I'm interested in. It's going to be sort of like I said in the other video, a little bit of a slow end of August, I think, but I think September's really going to pick up. I have a couple reviews waiting in the wings. I've got a couple games that are on the way that I'm going to be doing. I think I have 1 or 2 upcoming Kickstarter previews, crowdfunding previews, GameFound previews. and then a couple just retail reviews that I got to get out there as well. So, we'll see what happens. It's a good time. I'm having good fun with them. I just need to be able to play more stuff. The kids really, especially hopefully with school starting now, there will be a little bit more diversion from that side of things. But, you know, baby is baby. So baby takes up a lot of the other time. So there's not a whole lot of other room. So, it's all good. Hope you're having a good time. Let me know what you're backing. Let me know what you're watching. Let me know what's interesting. Let me know what's going on. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Stay classy. Stay safe. Stay healthy. See you around. Thank you again for putting up with me. I really appreciate it, guys. And, side note, right at the very end, maybe going to do another Patreon exclusive. So if you're interested in getting the Patreon exclusive, my locks of the weeks from crowdfunding and the retail side of things to be aware of, something to think about. Maybe I'll throw one out as a special tease one of these days so more people can check it out if it's of interest. So let me know. Or let me know what else you'd rather see on the Patreon from that side of things. But that's where I'm going with it right now. Okay, now, video over. Check out. See you later.